So my name is Cesar Cruz, aka Ricky Cruz.
It says recording.
Yeah, it's recording. Everything's recording.
Tell a little bit about Sebastian Cruz Couture and what's the whole concept behind it.
So Sebastian Cruz Couture, Sebastian is the name of the son that we've always wanted to have. And I remember telling the story quite some time before we even started trying to have kids. And it was an easier story to tell because it always made me smile, and it did make me smile again right now, but it didn't have all the hardships that happened in between. It was more so about starting something that we were gonna pass along to our kids, and not so much of where it is now, which is something that we want to pass along to our kids. But since we've struggled so much trying to have kids, it becomes a situation of, do we keep the brand for an extended period of time or do we not, you know? But on that note, Sebastian Cruz Couture, we started it before it even had a name. And the idea was, you know, with the pocket squares that were out in the industry were not staying up. And at the time I was buying pocket squares in like Burlington Coat Factory for like $5. And I would put them in the pocket and that was that. Once I started seeing with my wife people trying to wear their pocket squares sticking up, we went to one of our tailors that we had right before getting married. We saw the daughters hand crocheting pocket squares, and it just kind of like rang a bell immediately. And unfortunately, I couldn't pitch her to start a business with her because she would always, and sorry if you're watching this, she would always tell me, oh, come pick up your suits tomorrow. And tomorrow was 3 weeks later. And so obviously you can't start a business with somebody that you can't depend on. So I bought a couple of pocket squares off her for my wedding, brought them to my wife, and I said, babe, if you could find somebody that could hand crochet these borders on this pocket square, we got something interesting. Because I know you've always wanted to be in fashion. And I've always had, you know, a history of building stuff in the e-commerce space. This could be something very easy to ship. Package it up really, really nice, brand it very nice, and just ship. And so she's been such a good researcher that she was able to find somebody in Miami by the name of Marta. Marta, if you watch this, we miss you, we love you. We appreciate you very much. You were a big part of our journey. Met her outside of Cesar Couture. Shout out Cesar Couture. You helped us out a lot. And we bought some fabrics there. We brought them to Marta, and Marta said, you know what, come tomorrow. And when I came the following day to get the samples, she showed me the beautiful hand crochet border. So picked up the pocket squares, brought them downstairs, super excited. And I said, Natasha, this is it. This is the next business. So after that, we started doing looks with the pocket squares. At the time, I had an account called White Art 35 GTR, where I used to post daily looks that had nothing to do with our brand. And then we dropped the pocket square in there, and everybody was like, where'd you get that pocket square? Oh my God, I want that pocket square. That's when I said, babe, this is it, for sure, 100%. Let's just start another account. Let's call it the pocket square industry, so people perceive that they're the number one pocket squares out there, and they weren't selling at the beginning. And then when we priced about $145, which was closer to the potential competitors, then they started to sell. We sold them with the lapel flowers. Everything was 100% handmade, and that is how the brand started.
Describe your morning routine, your evening routine, and just your daily routine overall.
Oh my gosh, so let's start with the morning routine. Morning routine is waking up whenever the sun wakes up, right? Working myself up oftentimes is actually a struggle. And then, because then I get up all hyped up. So it really all depends what's going on in my mind. I usually have a list of things that I have to do. If it was up to me, I'd be at the gym super early. But I like to go with my wife. And so it becomes waking her up. She takes a very long time to get up. Hopefully by 8, I made it to the gym. I know a lot of people are going to hate on that. Oh, you should go early, blah, blah, this and that. No. That's bullshit. At the end of the day, if you create that level of anxiety, then you're not going to get anything done. And if you do get something done, you're not going to be happy about it. So I've realized recently that I have plenty of time to get everything that I have to do efficiently and have fun doing it. And so I try to just be more in the moment. So now after the gym, I realize I have plenty of time to do everything that I have to do, enjoy doing it. I get back home. So I have my breakfast before the gym. I answer all my emails before the gym. I'm pretty much done with most of my work, believe it or not, before I go to the gym. After that, it's just touching base with stuff that happens. If we have to create content, we'll create content usually around 3 p.m. Content meaning the daily looks. That one thing that we haven't really delegated yet. It's been very difficult to do so because that's kind of like the heart of the business. That's our passion. We like to create the content when it comes to the daily looks. As you know, we share all of our customer content through the Instagram stories. Shout out to Mara, who manages all of that. She's amazing. And so evening, man, the hardest part, to be honest with you, is unwinding, because when you run an e-commerce brand, it's very difficult to unwind. You're like literally always connected, always have the phone next to you. And so it becomes nearly impossible to disconnect. And so that is a practice. That is something that I'm practicing now. That is my routine. I try to stay busy. I struggle at sitting around and doing nothing. That I become very anxious. And I try to, my mind is looking for things to fix that are not really broken. I end up breaking something that's not broken. So that is a struggle for me. But that's my daily routine. I try to be grateful. I do mindful practicing now. I have this app that I practice that I use called the Wake Up app, which you should give it a shot. It calms you down. I do these breathing exercises and stuff like that. It works really well. I thought it would never work for me. But it does. It's changing my life slowly, and it takes time. Oh, and there's my ride. Kidding.
Okay, so childhood dream. Let's talk about your childhood, school, who are your parents, and what's your passion?
So childhood dream. I thought I was gonna be, my favorite movie was Top Gun. So I thought I was gonna be an F-14 pilot.
Watch the birdie. Jeez, I cracked myself up.
That was short-lived. Then after that, I thought I was going to be a race car driver. My dad sent me to Skip Barber Racing School. I did really, really well. But then they said, you need a lot of money to be able to do this. And if you want to go to regionals and nationals, it's going to be $200,000. So of course I asked my dad, and that didn't last for a second. He was like, finish school, go to school. I don't think that entrepreneurship is something that you could go to school for. I think it's something that, your parents might notice in you. I noticed it in myself as an adult. It was more so I wanted to do something that was my own. My first job was washing cars at Simon Eyes. My second job at Circuit City, I really worked at Best Buy for a month, but I hated Best Buy, so I went to Circuit City with my best friend Chris. Shout out Chris, love you, brother. And so I got that job at Circuit City, and the first thing I did was ask the general manager that ran the whole store, I'm like, what do I need to do to become a manager at the store? And before 6 months, he offered me the manager position. I think I was 17 or 18 years old. I can't remember. And
quick question, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
When you went to school, did you have any type of a side hustle to make money?
Yeah. Good question. It was selling fake IDs with my good friend Adriano. Not going to say his last name because we don't want to go to jail. Selling fake IDs. Ooh. My passion is, shout out to your brother for this one. My passion is your addiction.
Beat that out.
And so that was really, really neat. It always stuck in my head. But my motto is really anything that I do is an excuse to build a relationship with you, with the customer. And for me, I'm a people person. I'm addicted to the energy that people give you, whether it be negative or positive. It's up to me how I perceive that energy, right? And if I want to allocate my energy to that energy. And so just learning more and more about people and life, recently now more about life, I realized that the product is always an excuse to build a relationship with the consumer, 100%. And so that is my addiction, and more so being able to relay that message online. If you could get somebody to want to buy something from your website and it's pricey, not just a fast fashion kind of thing, I think you have something very special there. And so when I realized that we could do that, I became addicted to it.
Just like a couple words about your parents. Who do you think you relate to the most? What kind of traits do you think that you get from each of them?
My dad's always been the aggressive one. He was always a dreamer, looking for big things and aspiring to have, right? And to achieve and to have. My mom was always more of a grounded type of person, more of a safe person, but she was always very grateful. She's very, she believes in a lot. She has faith and believes in God a lot. Both of my parents do. And so my dad's always a risk taker. My mom's always on the safe side. So I grew up in that environment. Unfortunately, they got divorced when I was 14. Very difficult, most difficult time besides all of our baby losses right there. Most difficult time ever. And it really shaped me. And I was on track to probably making the same mistakes my father did. And I think your parents always want you deep down to learn about the mistakes that they made so you don't make them too. If it wasn't for my wife, there's absolutely no question I would have followed the same track as my father, made the same mistakes, and who knows where I would have been now. Long story short, I'm a blend of both of them. 100% now at the age of 40. I could tell you I'm grateful for all their mistakes because I've made some of them and I've avoided some of them as well. I'm really grateful for my parents and for being able to expose themselves and show me, and that way I've been able to become my own person, and I think that they're proud.
Okay, so if you have an extra hour in a day, who would you want to spend it with?
100% with my wife. There's no question. And I already spend pretty much all my hours with her. I'm addicted to her, and she's addicted to me too. And so, we just pretty much do everything together. It feels weird when we're not together. And so I would spend it with her, and I don't think I need to say anything else.
Some people would say that's unhealthy, but...
That's what?
As long as unhealthy.
Unhealthy? Give me a break.
But I think as long as we're next to each other, we don't have to be smothering each other.
Exactly.
It's,
Yeah, we don't smother each other.
Yeah.
We don't. Yeah, like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, next one.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite place out of anywhere you've ever visited?
I would say my favorite place is Sardinia, Porto Cervo, because Lago de Como to me has a piece of my heart. It's just one of these soulmate places where you feel like when you're there, like you have this energy that kicks in that you're like, yeah, this is home, And Sardinia, Porto Cervo is home because it's home to me because it's a place that we found by accident. We weren't really supposed to go. It's something that I actually found. Just Googling, I'm like, let me throw this into our trip. And we threw it in there, and both of us. So I'm never going to be attracted to a place unless my wife is really attracted to it too. Because believe it or not, they say happy wife, happy life, right? But I notice when my wife is happy, and I get even more happy when she's happy. And so when we discovered Sardinia, we opened the balcony of this beautiful hotel. The view was so insane, and both of us were like, holy shit. And before that, our favorite place was Santorini, and this felt so similar to Santorini, but it was still Italy, and so that's my favorite place.
So how did you end up in Parkland, and then how did you end up in Georgia after that?
We used to live in Weston for quite a while, so where we had our first place there. We discovered Parkland after looking over and over in Weston. Everything in Weston was old at the time. This was in 2017 when we wanted to leave Weston. So it was like in 1 week. Once we discovered the area, we found the next place, and that's where we moved in. And so we ended up in Parkland, and then in 2017, it's kind of like, I don't even think we decided that we wanted to have kids. I think that in 2018, when we were in Santorini, we conceived in Santorini in 2018. And then we just freaking got pregnant. And then we didn't know because obviously it's the first time that we get pregnant. And I remember telling my mother, I'm like, how cool would it be if I signed this contract for this house and I give it to Natasha as a present? And that was crazy. We built it with the idea of giving birth to Sebastian at this house. We wanted it to be done before we gave birth. And so obviously it didn't work out. Like right before Valentine's Day, we had the negative news that we had to terminate the pregnancy. And that was for sure, equally, we would agree, the worst day of our lives. There's no question about it. We cried for like a week every day. And And it was crazy. It was around the same time, or maybe even the same day that I sold my blue Porsche. You know, I can't remember, something like that. It was around that time. But I remember the guy that came and bought my blue Porsche, filmed us getting a call of positive news that the baby didn't have Down syndrome.
Trisomy, and it was a boy.
And then it was a boy. So that was our happiest day ever when we received that news. We were like, holy shit, it's a boy and it doesn't have Down syndrome, which we were being frightened that potentially it might. And we got that call, we celebrated. It was crazy, but maybe even that the same day, or if not a couple of days later, we get the negative.
No, it took a whole week because they were
It took a whole week,
the
that's right.
chromosomal test. And I was, in the last 2 days, I started trembling because I had a bad feeling. And you were like, don't wish negative things into fruition. If you just be positive, it'll be a positive result. But
yeah,
you can't mess with chromosomes and genetics.
Yeah.